All right, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Give me a little more volume on the South Head. Welcome to our 40th year birthday bash and anniversary celebration, whatever you want to call it. We've been here 40 years, y'all. Let's give us a hand. Yes. So we welcome you. Make yourself at home. If you're here for the first time, we welcome you. We honor your presence here. We're going to sing some fun, easy songs by my wonderful friend, Karen Drucker. Maybe she's watching today. Y'all, let's welcome everybody on Facebook Live today. All right. Welcome everybody that's joined in. If you're in your pajamas, if you're having some coffee, we're so grateful that you joined our service. Join in with the party right at home. Come on, you kids. Let's get up here and help us sing some real easy songs. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Everybody say, thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful. How about thank you for my friends? And thank you for my friends. And thank you for my friends. Everybody said thank you for my friends. And thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful. How about for this church, everybody? And thank you for this church. And thank you for this church. Thank you for this church. Spirit, thank you for this church. Wonderful, this wonderful, this wonderful, this wonderful church. This wonderful, this wonderful, this wonderful church. How about our health? Thank you for my health. Spirit, thank you for my health. Thank you for my health. Spirit, thank you for my radiant health. My radiant, my radiant, my radiant health. My radiant, my radiant, my radiant. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. How about this healing day? This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. One more time. Thank you for this day. For this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, y'all. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Everybody say thank you. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. How about some love is my source? Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. How about some peace, y'all? Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. How about some joy, y'all? Joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Now let's just do our voices. God. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. 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 So take just a moment, y'all, and say hello to your spiritual family with some hugs and handshakes on this beautiful, beautiful day. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. All right, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Wow, such a beautiful day, such a nice crowd. Thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate 40 years of ministry, of service, of laughter, of spiritual growth, spiritual family. We bless everyone that's ever walked through these doors. If they stay here a day or all 40 years, we're so grateful. If you're here for the very first time, we welcome you. You came on a very exciting day where we've got our big party going on celebrating 40 years. And if you're here on Facebook Live for the first time, we welcome you as we're streaming into your home. Thank you for joining us as well and checking out Unity. But here, hopefully you picked up one of these packets. If you're here for the first time, lets you know a little bit about Unity. And on the back, there's a little slip. If you wouldn't mind filling this out, let us know what you thought about the service. We'd love to hear from you, and we welcome you and honor your presence here. Everybody remember to get onto our e-newsletter list, and you can sign up for that out in the Welcome Center where you came in. Let's just take a deep breath, y'all, and get centered in. Wow, seems like I've been running around all morning, ripping and roaring, and just going to relax into this moment, knowing that we are exactly where we need to be. So you can relax, let go of anything that happened this week, anything you said. Right here is all that we have. The past is over. Anything that happened, that was said, any interactions we had, in our relationships at work, even some of the self-talk that we have to ourselves sometimes, right now is a new moment, is a new day. We are exactly where we need to be. We are here by divine order. This group of people, in this space, and this time, will never, ever happen exactly like this again. So this is a holy, special, and sacred moment. And for that, we breathe in deeply and get settled in, bringing all of our attention here to this space, here and now, knowing that everything we need is right here.
I'm so grateful for this magnificent spiritual family that inspires me, lifts me up, reminds me of who I am as a beloved expression of life, as is everyone else. And so for that we say, thank you God for this opportunity to come together and remind each other of our magnificence, to remind each other of who we are, beloved expressions of life. And so it is. If you wouldn't mind silencing your cell phone or anything else that might rattle or make a noise so we can create a sacred space together. Don't get to check in though. Check in on Facebook, check in on Twitter, check in on... I've lost count. I lost count in Snapchat. I don't know what happens after that. But let the world know that we're here. It's so important. This is a great way. Doesn't cost anything just to say we're at Unity of Metairie, celebrating the divine presence in all living things. Come and join us. And then silence your cell phone and thinking about something joyful and wonderful. I'm thinking of these kids over here, y'all. Let's give them a hand. Come on up. Anybody here visiting, you're welcome to join us. All right. We're just going to honor you, and we have a wonderful, wonderful program for our kids in the back, in the kids' room, as we celebrate out here. Anybody else want to join us? All right, come on. We won't embarrass you. Look, you'll make some new friends up here. Y'all, this is a great group of girls and guys, and here we have the divas approaching. She comes fashionably late to the stage to make her appearance. We're going to honor these kids, and I like to remind us every week that we can send this blessing to children all around the globe. They don't have to be present here in this space and in this room to feel our blessing and to know that they're loved. So as we bless them, we send this energetically to every child. May they remember and awaken to who they are as beloved expressions of life. As you say with me now, children of light, we bless you. We see you loved, guided, and protected by God's presence. And New Orleans style, we love you hard, hard, hard. We swear to God. All right, y'all. Can you go to the back, have some fun? Aaron, if you can get that one more light back there, I'd appreciate it. All righty. So let's all get settled in. It's going to be a little bit of a different service today. Less talking and more acknowledging, honoring those that have come before us. We stand on the shoulders of a wonderful group of people that have kept this place together for 40 years, a long time. You know, in ministerial school, we learn about churches and the life of churches, and believe me, 40 years is a long time for a group like this to stay together. So we're going to be honoring some of those people, talking about unity, its origins, and hearing from some folks. So I'm very, very excited. I woke up this morning with a cat's snout right in my face. My little Oliver decided, he usually sleeps at my feet, and he decided to sleep right by me. So I woke up, I couldn't hardly breathe, and there was like a snout, like right here. Woke up excited, ready to come and be with my spiritual family on this beautiful and wonderful day that we're celebrating our birthday. I love that Jackson earlier, this little one up here, said, "Mama, look, it's a birthday party." And I said, "Yes, it is a birthday party." It's awesome. Very sweet. So as Steve comes up, I would like to ask everyone to, as best you can, just relax, become centered, bringing all of your energy here. Everything's going to get done. Whatever you're thinking about right now, it's going to get done. It's going to work out. So you might as well give yourself permission to just be here and relax into this moment as we listen to these thoughts from the Daily Word.
Sunday, June 10th, 2018. Today's Daily Word is consciousness. I use my creative power for a fulfilling life. New Thought leader Emmett Fox said, "We have the key to life, and that key is that life is a state of consciousness." He went on to say, "The great creative word is I am. It is the secret of life." How exciting to know I hold the key to life through my consciousness and the creative power of my words. Whatever I hold in my thought, Whatever thoughts I connect with my divine nature, I demonstrate in my life. When I connect my consciousness with I am, the divine power within me, I use my creative power to bring about the good I desire. In God consciousness, I am continually aware of my divine power. I affirm the truth about myself. I am wise. I am whole. I am love. I am worthy. I am good. Today's daily word was taken from Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me.
Wow, what beautiful words. A reminder of who we are. Recognizing that within us, as this verse talks about, through Christ that strengthens me. This Christ that we talk about here at Unity is sometimes a little different than what we're used to referring to this as. Instead of being the man that we knew as Jesus, the Christ that this verse is talking about is the Christ presence within each and every one of us. Some of us like to use different words. That may be our inner voice, it may be spirit, it may be divine guidance. It's all the same thing. And it's within each and every one of us. There is a place within us where nothing is impossible. Right now, there's nothing to wait for. We are promised that within us, in this very moment, there is a place where our genius lies. There is a place where we are unlimited. There is a place where nothing is impossible. And that's why we spend time during our service in stillness and in silence, because the way to access this genius, this place within us that is unlimited and creative and healthy and vibrant, we can only find that when we turn our thoughts within and allow ourselves to be still and listen. Just simply listening to that still small voice. Sometimes we call this meditation, sometimes we call this prayer, contemplation. It doesn't matter what we call it. And this morning, symbolizing this presence within us, we light our Christ candle, which is a representation of this inner divine life. This place within you that is timeless and ageless, unlimited. May this candle serve as a reminder to us that we are this Christ. We are the presence of love in the world. We are the very hands and feet and voice of God. So I would invite you to join me into that place of stillness for a few minutes. There's no right or wrong way to be or to sit. Sometimes it helps to put both feet flat on the floor, but any way that is comfortable for you. Eyes open, eyes closed. Just allow yourself to become present here and now in this moment. Allow your body to relax. Feel your legs become loose and still. Allow your abdomen to relax. Let your shoulders gently drop. Feel the natural force of gravity as you release any tension. Release any stress or tension in your neck, your forehead. Just allow your face to soften. Just go into its natural, still position. As your body relaxes, begin to consciously pay attention to your breath as you breathe in deeply, watching your breath as it comes into your body. And then breathing out and letting go. Simply put your focus on this breath. watching your breath as it comes in, goes out. Allow your breath to be a reminder that even while you sleep, there is a force that loves you and adores you so much that it continues to breathe your lungs and beat your heart without any effort from you. So begin to see your breath as the very breath of God, the light of God, the life of God. If your mind begins to wander or become distracted, just simply bring your attention back to your breath. Use it as a place to focus, as a mantra, as you allow yourself to become empty, still, quiet, completely relaxed into this moment. And as your body becomes still, take a moment and look at your mind and see what you may be thinking about. What thoughts may be there? What chatter? Self-talk? Maybe even judgment or concern? And realize that you have the choice for your mind to become still and quiet and open and empty. For in this emptiness, there is a vast space within you. In that sacred place between your thoughts, in the nothingness, there is a gap. In the emptiness. Here, you find your true, essential self, created in the image and likeness of God, forever loving, forever loved, forever safe in the arms of love. In the emptiness, in the silence, you find God. You find yourself. For here, who you really are is timeless, ageless, transcending your body, any circumstances of your life, any circumstances of the world. There is a place within you where there is only peace. So we move into that space of emptiness, stillness, listening to that still, small voice. In the emptiness, into the gap. Into the silence. And from this place of stillness, we are grateful that no matter what has happened in the course of our life, that who we really are in this moment is exactly as God created it to be. Nothing can change what God has created whole, perfect, complete. And right here, right now, we have come into the very presence of God. Because we are here. You are that presence. So our minds are open and our hearts be open. Turning this time over to this magnificent, beneficent, loving force called life. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. We have come into the presence of God, and our hearts are open to the love that's found right here, right now. Right here, right now. We have come
into the presence of God, and our hearts are open to the love that's found right here, right now.
And our hearts are open.
And our hearts are open to the love that's found right here, right now.
So good morning, everybody, once again. Good morning. How great to be here. There's no place I'd rather be than with my spiritual family this morning. And what a special day it is. And I love today, just kind of everything worked. We had to bring out some more chairs, which that's always a good issue to have. It seems cool in here, and I'm not burning up. And our streaming is working. Everything is like going on all cylinders, so it's great. It's awesome. Hey, everybody on Facebook, I'm not buffering anymore. I think everybody thought that watched that I was like a buffering ghost. Because I actually watched a couple weeks ago whenever Paul spoke, and he would be here, and then he would like stop for a minute like this, and then he would like appear over here like he was bilocating or something. You know how streaming is. But they're with us full high definition. Hello, welcome everybody on Facebook. Please continue to join us. We love growing our tribe, our community beyond just our four walls. Last year, when I was at Unity's conference, one of the retreats one of the workshops I went to talked about streaming and about social media and the impact that it has on churches today. And basically, they told us, if you're not streaming, if you're not on social media, your church pretty soon will close. And there were a couple examples of churches that got up that talked about how they had worked on their streaming process, had gotten the word out. And there was one church in particular, I remember they said they would have about 50 people in the room, and they would have over 500 people watching. So they literally had a huge, almost 600 people as part, but only 50 were sitting in the room. So however we get this message out is fine with me. We'll just all have to, spruce up our hairdos and make sure we wear the right clothes if we're going to be on TV, as they say. But anyway, I'm very excited and appreciate Todd for helping to come in yesterday and get that worked out, and Larry and everyone that's worked on this over and over to work out this bug that we've had for the last couple of months, and so grateful for that. And what a day for it to happen on our 40th birthday bash. Just very, very excited. You may have noticed there's all kind of good stuff around here in our silent auction. Later on, you'll have an opportunity to bid on that if you haven't already. We're going to have a potluck immediately after the service. Please plan to stay. Even if you didn't bring food, you're welcome to eat. I guess on Facebook you can smell the food maybe, or look, we'll show it to you so you can, your mouth can water, but maybe you can make a snack at home. But please plan to stay and enjoy us afterwards, and we're going to have some fun things to do. We're going to have a photo booth, and just excited about it. And I'm just excited as Jackson is about it being a birthday party. So welcome everybody. A couple of years ago, wow, I can't believe that I've been here 5.5 years. It kind of blows my mind. A couple of years ago, we were cleaning out some stuff out of the some of these storage bins, and we ran across a whole pile of papers, and we were throwing a lot of them out, and I ran across this sheet of paper, and I noticed at the top, and it wasn't in an official folder or anything, it was just sitting with a pile of papers, and it said church history. It was printed out on the computer, but somebody wrote in pencil church history. And I loved it because someone, and I don't know who did, maybe the people that will come and share later who've been with the church for a long time will maybe know who did this, but someone documented every single location that this church held its services. They made notes about how many people attended during that time, and they wrote Oh, there's one section called, I love this, in the end it's unresolved issues. So they wrote down stuff that happened. I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting. And I wanted to share some of these with you. And wow, I wish I had my glasses now. I'll have to stand back a little bit. So in 1976, anybody remember that year? Anything that happened? Anybody was alive? I was always sheltered in the 70s, but people that went out in the world and partied a lot said, I was born in the 70s, I just don't remember a lot of it, you know. But in 1976, and what I believe was in June, Cecile, I was going to ask you, was it June maybe that the first thing happened? Was it in the summertime? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
We're actually a little older than 40 years because we were a study group for...
Right, so it says the study group started in 1976. So, and someone had told me at some point it's June. Well, we're just going to make our birthday June no matter what. It's been June since I've been here for the last 5 years. So it developed, the group of people got together, they met in a bank, which that's a good sign. And they developed a basic plan for the church and ways to attract people. And the good thing about this is it says unresolved issues were none, which we love that. And I was going to tell everybody, one of the things that we have today, in this table that has a yellow tablecloth that's right by the column here, that's our heritage table. I would encourage you on your own to go and look at that table, and this will be there for you to read all the details. That table is full of memorabilia, of pictures of many decades, pictures of locations of the church. Very interesting to see, and some of the faces in those pictures are here today, which I love that. Just look a few years older.
That was done on the 30th anniversary.
Right, for the 30th anniversary, which was 10 years ago.
And that's...
Exactly, and it's a great memory for us to have. So I would encourage you to look at that, and this will be there as well. Well, anyway, Cecile, do you mind coming up? Do you feel like coming up for a moment? I was going to have you come up anyway, but since we're talking about this, do you mind coming up and making an appearance? And the reason I'm bringing Cecile up, I didn't know when I was going to do it, but now is a good time as ever, because Cecile was there on the very first day. 40 years ago, Cecile was there on the very first day. Thank you so much for whatever you've done the last 40 years to help keep us together. I'm dropping myself everywhere. That's okay. We've dropped our history. So can you tell us a little bit what you remember about that day and what it was like? Or any memories that you might have of that day in 1976 when the study group started?
It was a family that I met at the Unity Temple uptown on St. Charles Street who wanted to begin a church out here. I received a letter from the wife asking me to have a meal with her, and she asked me would I be interested in helping to start a group. And so that's what we did. It was in the bank building across from Haynes School on Metairie Road.
Wow.
And my son was a baby at the time. I used to have a little pad on the floor and lay him down and sleep at my feet. So he was getting Unity by osmosis as a babe.
Wow, that's great.
And we were a small group for a while. It was a study group because you have to have a certain amount of attendance and income, I think, to begin a search for a minister. So we were a study group, and all through the years we've had a series of different ministers and a series of times when we had no minister and we were our own ministers.
Yes, which happens sometimes in churches. Well, we appreciate you, and thank you so much for your part in our heritage and our history. And without you and those that started that day, we wouldn't be here. So thank you so much, Cecile. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. And that's why, if you look at the dates, that's why if you look at 1976, that's when the study group started, and then the church actually formed in 1978. Therefore, 40 years, 2018, do the math, I guess. So the very first minister, her name was Mary Hinkle. Anybody remember her?
Yeah.
Well, wherever she is, she's 40 years older than she was then. So I'm not sure who she was or whatever, but we bless Mary and what she did for the church. She brought the church up to about 50 people. which Unity has, as Cecile was explaining, Unity has a thing, you have a study group, and when you get up, I believe the number's 50, you can then ask for a charter, and Unity Worldwide issues a charter, and you actually become a church. And that happened in 1978, 40 years ago. There was a time, what I noticed on here, there was a time in between 79 and 80, the minister's name was Helen Glover. There were a lot of women that ran this church. Man, this was like the woman power church for a while, Wonder Woman. Half of these ministers are women, which is awesome. So Helen Glover, they had their first permanent church in 1980, and they had attendance of 100. So I don't know what Helen did, but we're going to channel her energy in, and and maybe she can help us out with some ideas. They developed a steering committee. Let's see. It said there were unresolved issues. The original founders had issues. So there was unresolved issues. There's always issues in churches. You just have to overlook it. That's how it goes. That's why we started, yes, as part of a church away from the downtown Unity Church. The first permanent church was 1979. Then there wasn't a minister for a while. Helen Glover actually stayed here until 1982, so she was here for a while. Now, David Drew became the minister after that, and I hear so many stories about David Drew. He comes here every year for Jazz Fest, and a couple of years ago, he actually came to church and he spoke while he was here for Jazz Fest. He still loves New Orleans. And when David was here, the minister, the attendance was also 100 plus, it says. It says he was popular. They had a radio ministry, which I find was very interesting. That's what I'm saying. I'm so happy to see this sheet. I had no idea all this stuff had happened. I mean, I don't know if radio is such a good way to get the word out anymore, but back then in 1980, they actually had a radio ministry. I'm sure he recorded a talk or they did some music and it got blasted on the airwaves. So he probably has some good marketing ideas. It had good attendance. And then it says the minister changed direction. So all these little things on here. Anyway, I won't go through all of these, but please take a moment if you want to and look at these so you can see what all has happened in the last 40 years. As Cecile said, there's been times where there was a minister, there was times when there wasn't. But when I'm standing in front of you, I feel honored to be here because I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of different people, a lot of ministers, a lot of groups that have held the church together. I invited, and unfortunately she wasn't able to attend, and I really want to have her come and visit us soon. Laura Lisa Wall was the spiritual director immediately before I was here, and she was the minister for, I believe, a couple of years, and I sent her a text this week, and she's now the minister at Baton Rouge, by the way, and had to speak there this morning, so couldn't be with us, and we're going to have her come join us, but I sent her a text just a few days ago, just thanking her, because without people like Laura Lisa Wall and others, we wouldn't still be here today. There were times when it got down to, should we stay or should we, remember the old song, should we stay or should we go now? And speaking of that, we have another special person here today, Mike Maslak. Do you feel like coming up? Or you want to, why don't you come up? Or I can bring, I think the mic will reach you, or we can get you the wireless. Do you still have the wireless? Let me give you a wireless, be all fancy. Mike Maslak is special to me because Mike worked with Laura Lisa for many years. Basically, between them and Cecile and Annabelle and a few others, they kept the church going for that period of time that was so crucial. And so I'm so grateful to them. And Mike was the board president that hired me. So I'm especially grateful. Thank you for bringing me here. How exciting. So, Mike, is there anything that you would like to share? Just, first of all, we're grateful to you for keeping us together and being part of the heritage here. Is there anything you would like to share about the church or anything you'd like to say?
Well, I love Unity, and my beginnings in Unity were similar to the churches. I started at a study group in Wyoming where there were no churches, Unity churches. And it really changed my life. And through the progression of things, service became pretty important to me. And Unity has a great tradition of service. And I was asked to be on the board of Unity, and I was reluctant at first, and finally took a board seat, and then became the board president, and it was a real joy. But there were times when we were contemplating just what you said, Jack. Should we stay open? Should we close? And I remember Laura Lisa and I having conversations about, well, we've got to keep enough money. We've got to have enough money to close.
Right.
Because you don't just close the doors and just leave. You know, we had to get rid of everything and stuff like that. And then I think, Jack, you offered to come and play. And I knew of Jack from New Thought Music, and I was thrilled that he would come to our church and honor us with his presence, and he did. And we had a good time, and we went to lunch and talked about him staying, and occasionally, and it just progressed into what it is today. And I want to say thanks, Jack, for keeping this church going, because without you, I don't think it'd be here today.
Oh, well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And you as well. Did you get the mic? Thank you. What a, and Mike telling that story is something that I wanted to share with everyone. And it's a basic thing that we talk about a lot, but when we actually see it in our lives happening, and what I'm talking about is God's timing. Sometimes it's frustrating when we want something to happen and it doesn't happen in our timing. Have you ever had that happen before? It's so frustrating. You like shake your hands in the sky. And just the way that I was here and what Mike briefly talked about taught me so much about trusting and knowing that even when things look bleak or they look like they're not working out, that there is this magnificent power in the invisible within us that's always working on it. I always think of it as maybe even think of it as a little staff of elves that are back there just working day in and day out, like the Keebler elves, always working. Because I was at Unity of Nashville, a beautiful big church, and there's 3 or 4 unities in Nashville. This was the big beautiful one, we might call it. And I was there as the music director, and was there for 3 years, and I started feeling a calling to be back in New Orleans. I was like, man, I've already lived in New Orleans once, but I just loved it, and I really resonated with here. And this is where God's timing is so important, because I started feeling this desire to be back. And my ego, my little part of myself, the little mind that's so small and thinks it's limited, kept saying, what kind of work would you do? What would you do in New Orleans when you went back? Like, how would you even do that? And I've learned to just discount that voice and know that when we are called to do something at the deepest level, we should just do it. And we all know what happens when we don't. We get the cosmic 2x4. And the universe takes care of it for us. But it was so beautiful. Coming to this church taught me so much about the timing of that, because I decided to give my notice. Let me tell you how beautiful Spirit works. I gave my notice at Unity of Nashville in November of 2012. And I was booked to speak here because I loved this church from the beginning. The very first time I came here and just spoke into music, I loved it and just fell in love with everybody. And I just loved coming down here and being in New Orleans, just being in the culture back that I appreciate so much. And I gave my notice in November, and I was booked here at the end of December, which had nothing to do with my letting the church go. It was just a place to come to celebrate, leading the church at Unity of Nashville. I came here in December and spoke, and I happened to mention during that talk that I had given my notice in Nashville. And that's when Mike said, well, hey, can we go to lunch? And I'm like, sure, free lunch anytime. And I don't remember where we went, Mike, but I remember going, and Mike said, just started that conversation, would you think about coming down here? And of course, I'm thinking, how would that work? The money, how would all this work out? And it was just so beautiful. I knew it was right when I called my friend Lawrence, who knows everybody in New Orleans. We call him the social butterfly, and I called him and said, Lawrence, I'm thinking about moving back to New Orleans. I want to live in the French Quarter. Is there a place that you know of? Now, this was my test, to test God and see what might happen. And I was hoping that he would say, I don't know, there's nothing available, because I would have to take a leap of faith. Sure enough, he says, Jack, you won't believe this. You won't believe this. But the house on Dauphine that you know I lived in many years ago, that's fully furnished, I have a lease on that, and I'm still paying the rent that I paid back in the 90s. And it's a big, beautiful New Orleans-style house. I mean, it's like quintessential New Orleans. It had 4 parking spots in the back. If you know the French Quarter, that's like gold. And he said, you could take that. It's open. It's coming open. And I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. What is happening? Have you ever had those moments? What is happening? And it just went on from there. And when I first started at the church, I was here very part-time. I was only here every other week. And on June 22nd of 2014, I moved into that apartment on Dauphine Street. And perfectly in God's timing. Didn't have to lift a finger. I really didn't have to lift a finger. Since it was furnished, I literally drove into the driveway and just walked in and started making some food and just lived. It was the easiest move that I've ever had. And it's been joyful ever since. There's been issues that come up, as we all do. There's been ups and downs, but I'm so grateful that after these 5.5 years that I'm still here, and I'm grateful to those that were part of that process. I want to talk a minute about unity overall in the history. Many of you know the history of unity, so I won't go, that's for another day. Today we're really talking about Unity of Metairie, but unity was started as a prayer service. Unity wasn't started as a church. It wasn't started as a religion. My goodness, we need another religion like we need a hole in our head. Unity began as a movement because 2 people, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the late 1800s, decided that they wanted to take the scripture, the Bible, and the traditional Christian values and actually make them practical and livable in their life. They began to look at the scriptures through, as Paul and Brenda's wonderful class, Metaphysical Bible Study, which happens once a month, began to look at the Bible through different eyes and began to try to figure out exactly what was being said metaphysically. And using those principles, as a matter of fact, do you all know that unity was first called Practical Christianity? That was like the name of it. And the reason was, yeah, our sign is so old, it still says Practical Christianity, the one that's on the big sign out at Collins Plaza where you turn in. And the reason for that is because it's actually a true description of what we are. It's taking the stuff that we talk about on Sunday mornings, and maybe some of the things we heard as we were children in church, and actually practically using them to create abundant and wonderful lives. Wow, what a novel idea. Because one of the things that I missed growing up that was confusing to me was we would have a wonderful, fun service on Sunday morning. I mean, it was Pentecostal. It was awesome. I mean, they should have charged a cover to get in. It was amazing, the music and all the carrying on. But it seemed like on Monday morning when I got up, I didn't have any tools to actually use. Like, if I had conflict or if I had sorrow or if I had anxiety. And the Fillmore's purpose was to take these ideas and actually begin to use them to make their lives better, and in line. I've got to been in New Orleans way too long. More better. Pretty soon I'll be saying Melpomene and Calliope. For all you people watching, that's a New Orleans thing. But they wanted to take these ideas and use them, and they did. They healed their bodies. You've heard me talk so many times about Myrtle healed herself of tuberculosis and many other ailments. Charles also had ailments. He healed himself. They became prosperous. Charles became a real successful real estate agent. They bought all this property in Kansas City. They opened Unity Village, never trying to start anything, but Unity started as prayer. And to this day, we have a program called Silent Unity. There's all these people that are skilled in praying. This is what I really think that praying is now. Praying for me now is knowing the truth for someone else when they're temporarily unavailable to know it. That's what prayer is to me. Prayer is knowing the truth for someone, knowing their healing, knowing whatever they need when they're temporarily not able to see it, not able to know it for themselves. And Silent Unity, if you've never used it, you should. You can email, you can call, I think you can even text these days. Best thing to do is call. Free 800 number, 24/7, 365 days a year. You can call Silent Unity, you can easily Google it, and the number will pop up, and you get a live person on the phone that will help you out. It started as prayer. Because people were attracted to Myrtle because they healed themselves. It was almost like, I'm not comparing them really to Jesus, but it was the same effect where people said, wait a minute, you got something I want. Like, how did you do this? We used to think you were sick, Myrtle. Can you imagine knowing someone that was decrepit with all kind of disease in the hospital that y'all were going to die, and then the next day you saw them and they were doing cartwheels on a veteran's highway? You'd say, what happened? That's what happened with Myrtle, and people were attracted. And so people started writing her letters and sending her telegrams, and that's how long ago it was, really, sending telegrams saying, how did you do this? And she responded to every single one of them until she could no longer do it because the volume, millions of people started reaching out to them. And that's how Unity began. And for me, that's what Unity still is. Unity still is a center of prayer and believing and support for people on their spiritual path wherever they may be. And I love that there's no dogma. We were talking about that yesterday. Sometimes that's actually scary to people when they come in our doors, and it's great to hear, oh, it's so liberating to know that I'm a child of God and that all is well and I can co-create my world. Like, you mean I have to figure it out myself? You're not going to give me the 10 things I should or shouldn't do? There's something about taking our spiritual, personal responsibility, and Unity encourages us to do that and supports us to do that, whatever your spiritual path is. So I want to play a video today. It's very short, and I was honored that they asked me on the 120th anniversary of Silent Unity back about, I believe it was 7 years ago, they used my song In the Silence to create this promotional video about the origins of Unity. And it's really short, but I think it's just really beautiful as you kind of see the history in a 3-minute clip. So I wanted to show this to everyone today. So go ahead, I'll get the lights, Everett, if you want to stoke that up. In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release. From a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy Beautiful history. Paul, I forgot the lights. Would you mind getting the lights for me again? Just a beautiful history, and you get to see there some of the history of Unity itself. A couple of the people I wanted to chat a little bit. Sarah, would you mind coming up for a moment? Sarah has a great story. Like, you never know about what's happening behind the scenes and carrying on. And Felicity, you want to come and join us? Will you just quickly give us the background about how all this happened? And we're glad that Sarah and her family have joined us. And you guys moved here from Florida. Asheville. We're so happy to have them here with us. So new members, y'all, let's give them a hand.
So I was born here, but I moved to Asheville when I was about 10 years old. And when I was younger, I was about 4, I think, I came here to this church with my mother. Her name is Lisa, at the time her name was Lisa Barbe. I don't know if you might have remembered meeting her. So she met this gentleman, his name was Charles Ferguson. He used to attend this church. And this gentleman introduced us to his family, his daughter, and her family. So this family ended up being a great deal of an influence on us. And this family, from this church that we met them through, happens to be her father's family. So because of this church, we had 2 families come together to make this person right here.
Thank you for sharing that. What a cool story. So she's like a Unity of Metairie baby. It's like our Unity of Metairie baby. It's so cool. And speaking of that, I mentioned when Sarah came up, today, we haven't done this in a while, but I want to mention this before we get into more festivities and we start to close out a little bit. We have quite a few people that have been coming here a while that's very interested and been involved with things. And we are now opening up for new membership for anyone that's interested in joining. There's a sheet that's out in the Welcome Center. If you're interested in actually becoming an official member of the church, which means that you just become a member, all that you have to do is we're going to have a day on a Saturday where you come for half a day and we talk about what it means to be a member and talk a little bit more about the history of Unity. But if you're interested in taking that step, please sign up and I'll get in touch with you. In the next maybe 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to set a date to meet, have an orientation, and we'll have a ceremony for you. You actually get a plaque and get to be up here in front of people on Facebook. So if anyone is interested, please sign up and let us know. We'd love to have you as one of our members. You can get more involved. You can actually vote when we have, we're voting on new things. So anyone that's interested in that, please let us know. We welcome you. Speaking of members and things, I would like everyone in this room that has ever served on the board or in any capacity has been in service here for many years to stand. Because I see Shirley, that would include you, of course, Miss Annabelle, the Queen, Stevie Weavy, Rick, one of our former presidents is here, Mike, who you heard spoke, is here, Larry's here, and Carla served on the board. These people that you see, and Marion's holding her hand up over there, and I'm going to talk about her in just a moment as well. These people, at some time, either the present or in the past, have stepped up in leadership and made the decisions, as Mike said, to keep this church going, and made the decisions that were vital and necessary to make sure the finances were okay, to make sure we were where we were supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. So I am so grateful to everyone that's standing here, and let's give them a round of applause for your service, and appreciate you so much. Thank you guys. You can be seated. We really appreciate it. A couple things I want to show you. This, if you were here during Katrina, you know what this is. This is what's left of the church after Katrina. The church was severely affected by the storm. Who was here during that time? Yes? And how long did you guys go without having church? Do you remember?
I think Rhonda had it right after in
the parking lot?
Yeah, parking lot.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I was going to say that Rhonda Lyles was the minister during that time, and she was just determined to keep the church going. And these are plaques. They did a drive at some point where people donated chairs, and they would put these plaques. And you know how do you do that? Put the plaques on the back of the chair so you'll always be remembered. So the chairs didn't survive, but these are the plaques. This is what's left from the Katrina years. So we've come a long way from this bunch of plaques to where we are now. And Rhonda, as part of the heritage of this church, Katrina was a big part of it. I know and have gotten to know Rhonda Lyles, who was the minister then, a little bit better. And she told me the story. They were actually in this building. And she said she was so excited because they wouldn't let a lot of people into the neighborhood, but she told them she was the minister of the church. They let her in here. And she said when she first got here, she was so excited because the building was standing. And she was like, yay, everything's okay, yay. And she said, little did she know that back in the parking lot, there was a big curled up piece of metal, and it was the roof. It was the roof. She didn't know that. So she came in the church from the story she told me, and everything had been sitting in water and was devastated and had like frogs and stuff growing out of it. And so, you know, it was a mess, wasn't it? You guys, wasn't it a huge mess? But she, Rhonda said, you know, no matter what, we're going to do it. I didn't realize they had service that day, but apparently they had service right up there. I bet they toasted themselves up in August and that happened. And I hope that Rhonda is watching today, because Rhonda, if you are watching, we appreciate you during that vital time. I mean, I don't know what I would have done. Most ministers would have tucked their tail between their legs and took off after Katrina. And we're also grateful. One of the books in our history that you'll see here, and please take a moment to look at that at some point during our after party, there is a Katrina book with thank yous and acknowledgments to all the people that sent money and sent services and products and whatever. That's how the church stayed open during Katrina, even though a lot part of the city, as you know, was closed for a long time. So we're so grateful that this church even survived something as devastating as Katrina. Man, we've really come a long way, you guys. I mean, it's literally almost a miracle that we're sitting here this morning, and I'm just so grateful because, as we said, we're rescheduling the visioning time that I had to schedule last week when I had my sinus thing going on. But please keep note of that, because we're visioning to get a glimpse of what God really has for us to do starting in year 41. And there is a reason why this place stayed here during all the times, all the conflicts you might read on the sheet, through Katrina, through all that happened, and Mike mentioning, you know, conversation about should we even close this place. There's a reason why we're here. I mean, that's how Spirit works. We're not just randomly sitting here and just have to make it through. We are here for a reason. And I know that my heart has a passion to reach out to people in this community and beyond. You've heard me say before, not just to say we got a big church, but to share these life-changing ideas. I know for me, when I first found the ideas from Unity and other New Thought and metaphysical ideas, it transformed my life. What it told me was, there's another way to look at all this stuff in your life. There's another way to look at tragedy. There's another way to look at conflict. There's another way to look at relationships. There's another way to see yourself. To see yourself. I didn't know that. And there's people in this area that don't know that and don't have a clue of how worthy they are and how wonderful they are and how creative they are and how talented they are. And they need to hear these ideas. I mean, it's time to share these ideas to people that are hurting and are hopeless and have no idea that there's another way to see things. That's what Unity meant to me. It was like, wow, there is another way to see all of this. There's another way to see my life. And not only is there another way to see my life, but I can change it if I want to. I literally can change it. I have the power within me to change it. Now that sounds like something at a Tony Robbins or Joel Osteen event, but it's true. That's why so many people go to these things and go to their big church there. It's a simple idea, but it is true. You have the power within you to create the life that you would like to have. It takes work, because it takes work of unrooting all the ideas that you've been carrying around like a dead mule for all these years, letting them go and replacing them with another idea. Another way to look at unity is unity teaches us to begin to see ourselves as God sees us. See ourselves as God sees us. God sees you in this moment as whole, perfect, and complete, exactly as you were created. As a matter of fact, it's you. You're it. You are this presence of God, this presence of life. So just one more thing I wanted to mention, talk about Katrina. Our own Marion, who's over here, who's been part of... How long have you actually been here, Marion? How long have you been here at the church? 30 years. All right, well, that counts. You're a member now. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, great.
Well, good. Who is this?
I'm Carol.
Carolyn, good to see you. I'm so glad you joined us. Well, apparently a lot of people clapped and are happy that you were here.
Well, I was here a lot.
Well, thank you.
90s and for a time after that.
Awesome. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us. We were just talking about people like you that kept this place together for all these years and how grateful we were. So I'm so glad you joined us today.
I was here 10 years ago when there was a celebration.
The 30th, yeah. So glad to have you. I hope you can stick around for the party afterwards. And yes, thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for joining us, y'all. So this is our daily word, which, I like to talk about the daily word because it's a publication that's put out by Unity, our home office. This is such a cool thing. For just $5 for 2 months, you get a daily dose of inspiration like Steve read this morning. It's a great way to get your day started. We have those out in the bookstore. And in this daily word, right after Katrina, in October of 2005, guess who's featured with her nice little hairdo? Here's Marion. She became a star of Unity. Yes. Many of you might not even have known this, but I have spies and I have waves. I'm like Don Corleone. I never waves. I have people. But this, I'm also going to put this, and be kind of careful with this, kind of dog-eared, but if you want to look at this, I'm going to put this in the history section. They didn't just do a daily word of her doing an inspiration, they did a whole article on her, like she was Oprah or something. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's like, my goodness, it's like 15 pages talking about her humor, called Healing Through Humor. So take a look at this and see her. Man, she must have had a stylist. That updo is like something else. My goodness, you got to take a look at that. Looks great. And Marion has been a big part of our church, as we said earlier, as a board member and a supporter. So make sure and take a look at this as well. What was that? Yes.
I just have another little story of Katrina that might be of interest.
Sure. Please say it in the mic so they can hear it on the stream.
Oh, okay.
After Katrina, the whole room was, of course, moldy and mildewed, and the walls had to come down to the studs and so forth. As before we painted the new walls, everyone was invited to write affirmations on the wall. So under all these coats of paint since then, there are affirmations.
Oh, wow.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome. So, all over the place?
All over the walls in here.
Wow. No wonder it feels so nice in here. How cool is that? I didn't know that to this moment. I saw a church recently, they were building onto their church and they had to knock down some walls, and they did the same thing. They wrote on the walls in between there. One other thing we're going to do today before we get the party really rolling is actually quite a few months ago we talked about, see our peace be still, beautiful stained glass. Thank you. Crystal, I was like having a problem with that. If you've never really looked at this before, it's a beautiful, beautiful, do we know who made this?
Robin Ruth Couture.
She was a minister here, right?
Our ministers.
Robin Ruth Couture, so we
Bob-
bless
Bob.
Bob and Ruth Couture. They were a minister, I think, what, in the 90s sometime? And quite a few months ago, we had people sign up, and I've been waiting for the right time to do this, and I thought it was today, because on this Peace Be Still, or list of people that have been here and are honored and in memory of them. Some of them were members of the church, some were not, some of them were just family members or whatever. So we're adding today, and I thought today was the perfect time to do it, even though a lot of time has passed, to add these names. And if you would like to, you can later go and see some of the names if you've never noticed that before. But the names listed on there are people that have been part of the history and heritage that have passed in memory. And it makes this Peace Be Still stained glass just so much more meaningful. So we have two here with a couple of names in loving memory of Bill Rivera. My parents, Reverend Cora H. Fowler and Reverend Jack C. Fowler, both ministers. And of course our beloved Bonnie, in loving memory of Bonnie J. Marsalo. And also our good friend Stephen Phillips, mother and father Joe Phillips and Georgia Phillips. So I just thought it'd be neat. I'm going to go and put these there, and we'll permanently attach them at another time to make sure they're on this tray. But I just thought for a moment, let's just sit in the stillness and not only think about these beautiful people, Bonnie, Joe, Georgia, Bill, Cora, Jack, but let's hold in mind everyone that's been here, the people that we stand on their shoulders today, the people that saw a vision for Unity of Metairie and made sure these doors stayed open and made sure there was a place where we could come and express ourselves spiritually without judgment, a place where we could come and whatever our spiritual path or religion might be, we could come and feel safe and blessed and honored. So let's just take a moment in the stillness remembering them. For all of those that came before us as we celebrate 4 decades of service, of ministry, of love. And we've supported those on their spiritual path. We're grateful to everyone that came before us. We stand on their shoulders with gratitude. Thank you, God, for this magnificent place. Thank you for everyone that's ever walked through these doors and everyone that will ever walk through these doors in times to come. May we always be a place that strives to live in service, providing a way, another way to see things, a journey of healing, a journey of loving. May we use these ideas to mend relationships, to begin to see ourselves as God sees us. I know that Unity of Metairie is a great idea in the mind of God, and we celebrate this spiritual community, this spiritual family. Thank you, God. Thank you, life. And so we come to the part in our service where we support this magnificent, beautiful place with our tithes and offering, realizing how blessed we are and how grateful we are that Unity of Metairie exists as a safe haven for us to come and be. We are here to remind each other of our magnificence. We're here to see that divine presence of Christ within each other. We are here to remember that we are the presence of love in this world. We are the very hands and feet and voice of God. And we give knowing that as we give, it returns to us multiplied. For there is a blessed flow of abundance in the universe and in the world. And so we step into that flow greatly and give with gratitude, knowing that all of our needs are met. Knowing that we are so blessed. We are so blessed. And so here we bring our tithes and offering up as an act of faith, as an act of giving. With the baskets over here where the candles are, you can drop it there. Pick up an affirmation to take with you throughout the day. And if you prefer to stay seated, just simply raise your hand and an usher will meet you where you are. And if you prefer to give electronically with a credit card, you can meet Bill out in the Welcome Center where you first came in. He will meet you there and take care of that. But let's remember with gratitude and blessing of who and whose we are as beloved expressions of life. Remembering how blessed we are as we give this morning with an open and grateful heart. Thank you, God. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so grateful for all that we have. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so grateful. We are so blessed. And I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I supports our wonderful spiritual community. Thank you so much. To everyone that's been here over the years, thank you, thank you. Thank you for all our special guests for being here. It's been such a wonderful and beautiful day, and we sure hope that you can stay for the rest of the party. As I said earlier, we will have a potluck, so you're welcome to stay and dig in. Immediately, we're going to set up a funny little photo booth right by the kids' areas where you get to actually, well, you'll see, you get to wear a hula outfit and have your picture taken. Please stay for dinner, for lunch. Take a moment and look at all this cool stuff in the silent auction. We'll be taking bids until maybe 1:45 or 2. If you bid and you need to leave, we will give you a call so you can come pick up your goods if you win it. But there's some really cool stuff over there, so take a look at the silent auction and just stay and enjoy the joy of being with our spiritual family. Maybe get to know some people you don't get to talk to a whole lot. I call it, let's have a heavenly happy hour where we all get to know each other a little bit better and enjoy the food and stuff. Just a few announcements before the party really gets rocking. Hopefully you got this little sheet of paper when you came in. Please take this with you. It's of great importance. It tells you on the front exactly where we are financially from week to week. And maybe you can use that as a gauge to know if you maybe can give a little bit more. So please take a look at that, our income. And it also shows all of the events that are coming up. Paul, can you tell us what's going on Tuesday night on Spiritual Education Night? Y'all, let's get up for Paul Martinez. Paul, how long have you been here now? 4 years? Have you been here 5 years? Wow, that really is just crazy to me.
It doesn't seem like it. This Tuesday, we're going to look at and reflect on James Fowler. As far as Jack knows, no relation to Jack, even though it's spelled the same. James Fowler's Stages of Faith Development, which very much parallel, for those who've looked into this, Dean and Joan Piaget's Cognitive Development, Eric Harrison's Psychosocial Development, and one of my favorite, Lawrence Kohlberg's Moral Development. We're going to look at how faith develops. And I feel that's very important personally, because if we look at this theory and see maybe where do I rest in these developmental stages, it gives us good insight into maybe where do I need to go from here? What must I do next to develop, as Jack said, our own personal spiritual path? So we'll be looking at that this Tuesday at 7.
Please join y'all. Their classes are awesome, awesome, awesome. As I said, every month they have that metaphysical Bible study, which is so eye-opening, and which will be the following week. But this Tuesday, join them for this awesome, awesome class. Don't forget that on Wednesday, we have our Wednesday Faith Lift. At 6 p.m., we have meditation for an hour. We slip into the stillness with some centering music and words and some silence. Please join us at 6 p.m. for meditation. And then at 7 o'clock, we have a discussion on A Course in Miracles. Everyone is invited to join that. No experience is necessary. We also are continuing to give to Second Harvest Food Bank. This month is going to be pasta and sauce. So if you're at the grocery store, pick up some sauce and pasta, spend $1, and give somebody a meal. We continue to give to Second Harvest Food Bank. Next week is another special week. You know what next week is? Father's Day. We make such a big katuha on Mother's Day, but next week we're having a special day to honor the fathers. So please make sure and join us for our Father's Day event next week. I'm trying to remember, is there anything else that I'm not thinking? Happy birthday, Unity of Metairie. Stay tuned on our website. Stay tuned on, make sure you're on our newsletter list. And Brenda has one more thing she needs to mention about our youth program. So listen up to this, please.
Good morning, everyone. We're once again looking for about 2 people that would be interested in helping teach the children's program. Once a month is all we're looking for the commitment for. Usually we put the classes together. Once in a while we'll ask you if you have any ideas you want to use. But it's not hard, it's very easy. And so if you would like to do it once a month, see me or Paul, and we'll get your contact information and let you know the schedule. Thanks.
And how joyful to work with the kids. What about great reminder of who we are. And once again, we welcome everybody on Facebook. Thank you for joining us today, streaming. Hope you enjoyed the service. Thank you for being here for our big party. If you would also like to support and give to us, if you look at the post right below what you're watching, there's a link there where you can securely and easily give with any major credit card or PayPal. We appreciate your support as well, and thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't we stand to remind ourselves that all is well, life is good, and we are truly, truly blessed. Happy birthday, you need a battery. Stay for the party, y'all. We're going to have an awesome, awesome time. All is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. Yeah. And all is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. I'll let light shine so that everyone can see. I'll let love divine daily flow through me. And all is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. Yeah. And all is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. And let me be a change, for the change we want to see. And let harmony flow daily through me. All is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. Yeah, yeah. All is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. Yeah, all is well, and life is good, I am truly blessed. Yeah. All is well, and life is good, I am truly blessed, y'all. All is well, and life is good, I am truly blessed. All is well, and life is good, I'll let light shine. Let light shine so that everyone can see. I'll let love divine daily flow through me. All is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. Yeah, yeah. All is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. One more time, sing it out, y'all. All is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. Yes, yeah. And all is well, and life is good, and I am truly blessed. I am truly blessed. I am truly blessed. Awesome. And we'd like to thank John Scott, our friend, for writing such a beautiful song for us to sing, that All Is Well song. So before we start the party, eating, don't forget the silent auction. Sign up if you want to become a member. So many cool things going on as we say our prayer for protection today. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Happy birthday! You need your battery. Look at some of that cool stuff in the silent auction, y'all.
Abby, you might need to share, give Jackson one of those chicken legs. I'll give her the key. Jackson.
One other quick thing I was going to tell everybody that we do have a CD of today's service. If you want to take it with you to remember all these memories, the CDs are available in the bookstore, y'all. We appreciate Everett for getting that together. So take the service with you today.
Yeah.